Hello there, everyone. My name is Antojai, and I teach people how to turn Ascension into their everyday lifestyle. So, what is Source? All right. And before we get started on what is Source, don't you forget to go ahead and subscribe, comment, share right now before you do anything else. And definitely check out our Ascension Temple on Patreon, where you can learn how to do alchemy for yourself, change your reality, and enter for giveaways, 80% off healings, and so much more. All right, so let's get into this. No further delay. So I'm going to move my little camera up to the corner. And today's topic is something that I have dealt with a lot. And it's always interesting how it always comes up with the same kinds of people that I'm dealing with. So, what is Source? All right. So, I'm somebody who has studied esoteric literature my entire life. All right. And you want to know what all the ancient texts end up saying about esoterica and about Source in general? That Source is all that is. That's pretty much the gist of it. That's what it comes down to. That Source is essentially everything. Now, hold up. Let's go ahead and look at some other models over here really fast. The ancient Egyptians said that Source is everything possible, every possibility possible. All right. So that was a not too far away from what we've already known from that main concept that I shared with you. All right, but what have the Buddhists said? Buddhists have said Source is the present moment. Hmm. All right. We're getting closer. But wait, what have Christianity and Christians talked about when they connect to Source? They call Source God. God is everywhere. We are all God's creation. God lives within me. That's what Christianity has basically said about God. But wait, let's not just stop there either. What does quantum science essentially say about Source and God? If you don't believe in any other philosophy that comes from the esoteric, what does science even say about it? That everything is consciousness, energy, and vibrations. That's what essentially what quantum science is telling us when it comes to what Source is. So ultimately, all ancient texts and all of our pretty much understanding about the cosmos says that Source is all that is. All right. Now, let's go into the next slide really fast. We're going to go ahead. I'm going to grab my little icon. I'm going to move it over to this side again. So we're just going to say that this start point right here is you. Okay. So if that is you, and then all these different pathways that are leading you to understanding the cosmos are all different interpretations of what the cosmos means to people, right? So in one area, the cosmos means like the multiverse, right? With every possibility possible, which we know is like manifestation itself, the law of attraction, paradigm shifting, paradox shifting, quantum leaping. Like quantum science in general believes that everything is a quantum multiverse full of energy, light, vibration, sound. All right. A lot of people connect with that. Even if you don't believe in God and you're an atheist or something, or agnostic, you still somewhat believe in science, and like that would be the ultimate answer behind all science. Some people connect to Source as the universe, right? I talk to the universe. I'm having a universal download. The universe is talking to me right now through synchronicities. There's a bunch of different ways that people connect to the term universe. Cosmos is another way that you can connect to the universe. Some people don't believe that this reality or source is anything at all. Some people believe that when we have this experience, this is the only experience that we ever have. And that's the end of it. That's just the end of the road, right? Some people believe in some higher power like God or Jesus or some other deity that is the creator of all the universe, right? And nothing can be over that deity. Some people believe that source is all self is just you. And a lot of still that concept, and I'm gonna just go ahead and switch my diagram. I'm gonna switch two little things right here. The concept of self and the concept of the universe and the concept of quantum multiverse, those are actually all pretty much interconnected. Like, most people will start off at one of these other tiers, whether it's like the universe or like the quantum verse, right? And then eventually it'll always walk them back into somewhat understanding self. And if you end up understanding self, somehow you end up always traveling your way in the opposite direction towards quantum universe, multiverse, or the universe. You know, you end up understanding some level like that, okay? And then finally, we have people like myself that also understand that, you know, I come from a certain dimensional platform and I answer to the ascended masters. But ultimately, the ascended masters all are coming back from source. So I work directly with source and with the ascended masters. And you can see how some people would immediately say that source is all that is, right? Like, whatever else is there, like, doesn't really matter, because ultimately source is what it all comes back down to. Now, I have dealt with people who have fought tooth and nail with me, whether it is like an extreme Buddhist or an extreme Hinduist or an extreme Christian. Doesn't matter, somebody who believes really wholeheartedly in their thought of reality, right? And the reason why I'm making this video is to show you guys the limitation. If you're one of these people that, you know, thinks in this manner, maybe I can help you understand what the universe is actually all about. So I'm going to switch over to another color. So the problem with all religious war in like the all of human time is the fact that a lot of people will say that my way is the one right way. So here, like, let's just pick one random one. The most common one is my God is the right God. Doesn't matter if you believe in the Christian God or any other God. The biggest argument ever has always been like, my way is the right way. My way is the only way that I can get there. Like, that anyone can get there, and blah, 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 blah. All right. So here's a personal experience. My most recent personal experience was I met this lady. I worked with her for an extended amount of time. I'm a pretty blank slate. I share all of my understandings with people. And this is how Axel understands the cosmos. Okay. Axel was born really believing and being taught a lot about Jesus and God and all of that. And that reverberated right back to me. With time, I ended up understanding that really the cosmos is all based off of the universe. The universe and God are, you know, somewhat interrelated. Then I completely stopped thinking about the linear scope of God and I started traveling into the quantum multiverse. The quantum multiverse ended up bringing me into understanding that everything is and everything isn't. So then I ended up understanding not only the universe, the quantum multiverse, but nothing and God. That eventually ended up connecting me all the way up to the ascended masters and understanding a lot about the ascended masters. Then that eventually connected me all the way to source. And I ended up understanding everything is source. And then that eventually ended up coming right back into understanding that everything is just a manifestation of myself. That was the gist of my understanding when it came to reality and how the cosmos actually works for me, right? So let me slide this up just a little bit so you guys can look at the whole entire thing. That's how I ended up understanding reality, right? So when you are somebody who says my way of attaining source is the one and only correct way to attain source, essentially what you're saying when you do that is all of this is wrong, all of this cannot be source, all of this is invalid, okay? All there is this one singular reality, all right? And you know what that does to you, all right? We're going to go ahead and erase all of that for a second. When you actually think in that manner, you're basically saying this right here. You live in 3D or linear reality. Okay, and I'll just write reality. You basically have fixed goggles that will not let you see the other spectrum that's around you. So because of your fixed goggles, you cannot even comprehend or understand any of these other concepts. And then sometimes some people are like, wait, but I do all this work to manifest, to really understand myself, to understand what I think is God, but still things are not entirely working out for me. It's because you have closed yourself off. Now, some people, when they fight, tooth and nail on that concept, you cannot argue with these people. Like, some people will just not see past the scope that, there's more than just this linear scope of understanding, right? And when that happens, it is what it is. You just have to respect them for who they are, and you have to move on with your way. If you end up like arguing about it, you're going to waste a lot of your time. You're going to feel really, really frustrated. So this lady, she had asked me, do you pray? And I said, no, I don't pray. And she immediately like lost it and was like, well, maybe that's your problem. And I was just like, what is my problem? I didn't realize I had a problem other than like the human condition. And it escalated to this thing. And this was my stance. My stance was like, I do not believe in linear reality. Okay. So what I essentially said is, I don't believe that reality is point A to point B. I do not believe this whatsoever. That means time and space rule my reality, and I definitely know that all of this is essentially 3D. So I don't live there. That's not how I look at reality. So for me, I'm automatically going to want to delete time and space and then the whole entire concept. Like that, I don't believe in that. I think that's very limiting. And when I pray, I'm basically saying that I am limiting myself to this vibration of only being able to talk to God when it's necessary, right? And that's not how I see things. For me, source, right? Source is self. Source is the masters. Source to me is the universe. Source is the multiverse. Source is nothing at all altogether. And I ended up just saying, like, when I connect to source, I connect to myself, and I connect to the masters, and I connect to everything else, which is what? The present moment. That is the present. So why pray if everything is now? Why pray is what was my point. Like, God is everything. And she literally went off the handle and was like, no, like, you're not God. And I said, I never said I was God. But even in your belief system, God exists inside of everything. God created everything, right? So wouldn't God be source? And then she ended up, because this lady was Christian, she ended up saying, no, God and Jesus are the only powers that I answer to. And I said, okay, well, I answer to source and the masters and what I understand to be my reality. I totally respect your reality, because yes, your way of achieving source is valid. There's nothing wrong with how she saw how she could attain source. If she wanted to attain source through God and through Jesus or through some other power like that to attain source, that is totally okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem came down when she was trying to tell me that my source was invalid, that the way I saw the universe was not the correct way to see the universe. And I ended up just saying, like, listen, I've been doing this my entire life. Like, my work speaks for itself. Like, I would not be able to heal thousands upon thousands of people all across the planet and give them long lasting results that change their reality for the better if my way was invalid, if your way was the only valid way. And I just pretty much told her that I connect to the masters, right? Which then the masters will always, the masters exist within source. And that's what I said. And usually the masters will be like, oh, you need to understand X, Y, and Z to really understand what you want to do right now. And that's just kind of like how it works. But there's nothing wrong with how she attains source. There's nothing wrong with how I attain source. It's all based off of how you connect to source, whatever works for you. And the moment you start telling anyone that one way is better than the other one, you automatically do what? I want you to drill it in your head. You automatically become linear, or 3D. That is linear. That's essentially saying that's the only way you can attain God, right? So if you're then saying that time and space rule you, which is what? Chaos that rules you. That's the perspective of someone who understands reality that way. A 4D person understands that it's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that, and maybe still it's a little bit of God. That right there is a 4D person. That there's more than one way that you can work with the universe. And because of it, you have options that you can work with. You're not really living within just chaos itself. So you're living within the ethers, which is also known as your heart space. Okay. And then when you are somebody who is, we're going to use a different color here. Let me just pick one more color over here. Let's say that you're somebody who is 5D. 5D understands that all of it has a little bit of a truth to it. And depending on what you want to connect with, you have the options to choose how you create your heart space within linear reality by using the ethers to become super conscious of your reality. So then it's just all about what do you agree to? Super conscious. That's essentially what 5D is. What do you want to agree to once you've understood all of this? All right. So when you're dealing with someone and someone is telling you that source is just this one way of attaining all of reality, then you need to sit down and think to yourself, what is source? All right. Source ultimately is what? All the ancient texts always will tell you source is everything that is. Source is every possibility possible. Source is the present moment. Source is everywhere. Source, we are all source creation. Source lives within me. Source is everything that is consciousness, which is everything in the universe. Source is energy. Source is vibration. Source is this present moment. Source, when you try to declassify it, is stepping away from what? From what do we step away from when we really try to break down source? Oh, my pen stopped working. But essentially, it is the law of one. All right. So if you've read the book of Ra, Ra tells us that everything comes back to one singular point, one truth. And it's when we humans take the perspective of trying to understand and dissect that truth, that we get further and further and further and further away from source. So if you can collect everything that you've known about source and even tell yourself that you don't know what source really is and that you're willing to explore source even further, just you having that open heart and knowing that you want to know the truth of source and connect to source in a higher degree, you open up the plethora of understanding what source actually is. Source is not just what one linear mindset. Source is everything. Everything and every thought and every universe and every possibility. And that's what source is. And that's all I wanted to share with you guys. Sending you so much love. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share it with your friends. Share with me what you thought about this and how you've had your personal experiences with people who might have fought in tooth and nail on this concept. Remember, it's not really important for you to fight, because that would be saying that your way of attaining source is the right way, right? So if someone comes to you and says, no, you're wrong, the last thing you want to do is be like, no, you're wrong, right? Because then you're pushing your beliefs on source. But it is absolutely okay for you to be like, those are your beliefs and they're very much so valid. And I respect those beliefs, but I connect to source and reality in a totally different way. And that's okay too. I wish you love and light in everything that you do. That's been my motto. When I get into these types of debates, I just end it with, I wish you love and light in everything that you do, because you are essentially pursuing source. And the law of attraction, based off of what it is that you see to be true, will just amplify that. So eventually, yes, you will get to source, but some paths to source take a little bit longer than others. All right. I know lots of different shamans that have taken a bunch of different sources, right? A bunch of different sources, and have gotten to their ultimate source, right? Their ultimate reference of what source is. So just always have an open heart. Remember, New Earth is a multitude of possibilities. All that we have to do is respect each other, love each other, and allow the multiverse to educate us on what really is the cosmos. Sending you so much love.